Hi, I'm Doug Smith, and welcome to the 25 October edition of Portsmouth This Week, the voice of Portsmouth Town Hall. My guests today are Dave Croston, chairman of the school committee in Portsmouth, and Barbara McGann, our new school superintendent. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
I'm delighted to have you here. And Barbara, welcome to Portsmouth. You are a retired Navy Rear Admiral, which makes you the ranking member of everybody present here. And I have to admit that after 30 years in the Navy, I feel strange calling an admiral by your first name. But at any rate, you're very welcome to the show, and I hope you'll come back again.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and I'd love to come back.
Can you tell us a little bit about, it must have been a tremendous journey, starting from Newport when you grew up, going through the Navy and coming out here at the Portsmouth school system. Could you talk a little bit about the highlights, perhaps?
Yes. I often tell people I had an accidental life, which is true. And one of the reasons I'm so passionate about education is I was a struggling student myself. And one day my mother, who was a Navy nurse during World War II, one of the first, said, "Why don't you go talk to the Navy recruiter in Boston?" And I did. And I joined the Navy, and 32 years later, close to 32 years later, I remained passionate about education. Principally, I think, because I had spent so much time on recruiting duty and seen how young people in this country struggled to get ahead. And I was so frustrated by the fact that so many students around the country had difficulty getting into the Navy and passing the qualification test. So I returned to my passion, education. I was actually recruited by the Broad Academy for Superintendents. I had started out as a teacher many years ago, spent a short period of time teaching, and I was recruited to go through a very rigorous fellowship, and that took me to the Boston Public Schools as the assistant superintendent, and then the head of the Advanced Math and Science Academy charter school, which continues, because of its incredibly high standards, continues to be #1 in math and science in Massachusetts. And so I recognized early on that incredibly high standards are so important, and we've got to have much, much, much higher standards for all students. So one day, David Croston called me out of the blue and said, "We'd like you to come to Portsmouth."
Come back to the island, yeah.
Yes, and I was just delighted. Portsmouth has an incredible reputation. I've always admired the school system from when I was a very young person, and you had just built Portsmouth High School, I think, and it was an honor to be asked, and I'm delighted to be here.
I threatened to bring the marching band out at 6 a.m. every day until she
said yes, right?
That's right.
Yeah, well, I think there are a couple of themes you just touched on. One, I guess, I'm constantly reminded that a big part of teaching is continuing to learn, and I think we'll talk about that a little bit later on. You've just been in the position a few days, 60 days or less probably, and I just wonder what you thought might be our biggest assets in town, or the positive side of what you're seeing.
The people, the teachers. Teachers are like gold, and we need to act accordingly.
And treat them well. And
yes, and I'm amazed at how much time they put in, and it's just so important that we take care of them, that we honor them, that we recognize them. It is an incredibly tough job for very little money, and I think we need to constantly remind ourselves of that. There's no one who makes a greater direct and measurable contribution to the future of Portsmouth and the future of the country than a teacher does.
Absolutely. Yeah, I certainly agree with that. On the flip side, what are some of the major challenges you see here in Portsmouth?
Well, as you know, we have a vision of what we like to refer to as STEAM, which is a focus on science, technology, engineering, extremely high standards in in mathematics, and combined and fueled by the arts and design, by music. There are actually neurons in the brain that only fire with music and art. So it's an extremely important piece of a completely interdisciplinary approach that's going to get students ready for the 21st century. Yeah. The jobs that are available to students are in computer programming. They're going empty, and yet only 1 in 10 schools in the country even teaches computer programming. And when you combine that with very advanced standards in mathematics, you're arming a student with the ability to get a job right out of high school. So getting that completely implemented in the entire school system, of course, is challenging from the standpoint of resources, something that we're very focused on. But getting that implemented with fidelity in an interdisciplinary way. But again, our most important resource is our teachers. They're excited about it. I think we can do it. And I think we can garner the community support to do it.
Yeah, I think it's something we have to do because I think all of our kids, and I say that generically, I'm an old guy now, I can say that, I guess. All of our kids are competing with kids from the rest of the world, and a lot of folks aren't standing still. I sent you that article about the school in Shanghai and how it went from 0 to really high standards very quickly. I just think there's a lot of opportunities now for kids to look around and see where the competition is coming from.
Yes.
So I'm totally with you on this thing, and I'd offer you the services of this program if we can do anything to further your objectives. I think it's great. Let me go to Dave, because Dave, we're into 60 days now into the new school year. How do you think everything's going?
We actually think things are really going quite well. There's a balance to this year. There is when we talk with administration, they're forming what are professional learning communities. They're actually focused on kind of the classroom out. So the teachers themselves are working in common planning on their curriculum standards. And to a school, to a classroom, we see just a really dynamic approach to this year. And from what we're seeing across the board, I think the kids are picking up on it. It just seems to be some excitement this year that we're all looking not from a top-down approach from administration. We'll show exactly how we're going to get this done. It's more that we're doing it from a grassroots effort.
So you're letting the people that are actually going to be doing this essentially work on it and develop it.
Well, our teachers are amazing. I mean, they always have been amazing. They've been the asset of the school system from day one. And, we believe, we're out of contract right now, and we believe that we'll be in contract very shortly. And part of that is to actually embrace what kind of an asset they are for us as a community. Yeah. And quite frankly, they are driving the future of our system, and I think they are great captains of that boat. And I'm proud to say that my 2 daughters are benefiting from that. So we're very pleased. I have a 6th grader and a junior. So. Okay. And the junior's for sale.
Good luck to you, young man. Been there, done that. And sometimes it's not fun,
But saying that, I think we've all, the school committee has been fabulous. I think there's great unity and vision. And right now, I think there's a desire to say, all right, we really need to let our administrative team excel. And so, I think we have to have patience, and we'll see great success by the end of this year.
Now, do you set certain objectives for the school committee itself over the course of the year? And
sure.
What might those be?
Well, we have goals. Right now, we've asked administration to really set their expectations for the year because, we have a fairly new business team with incredible leadership. We have Jeff Schoonover, who is guiding what is a substantial change in the curriculum into the Common Core standards. as well as driving these professional learning communities or supporting them as best he can. And then, Superintendent McGann she's been such a quiet, strong voice for supporting what drives uniquely Portsmouth, and that's our teachers. And so there's a great deal of support from the leadership team, and now I think we're starting to see it in the classroom, where you even see it in the kids. They're more excited. There's an energy level this year that I think that behooves us in getting change management is often difficult, but if everyone's supporting and this change is coming from the grassroots, then we get there faster. We get there with less angst and with more success.
I think the key probably is generating enthusiasm among the people who are doing the learning. I think that's probably the biggest function you can do, is get a kid excited about learning all this stuff and figuring out what ways he can use it in the future. So I think it's great. Barbara, Dave talked about professional learning communities, and it's kind of an interesting concept. Can you explain it a little bit, and why is it important, do you think?
Yes, there's a large body of research about professional learning communities, and it is the only proven way to get a school system or a school to high performing, and it's the only way to keep it there. And what it is it's the opportunity for teachers to work together. You made the comment about we only know something when we teach it ourselves. We never truly internalize something until we teach it ourselves. And the same is true among our teams of teachers. I've been to several professional learning communities this week alone. I was at the Melville School participating in the teachers using data and student work to inform instruction. You pointed out the Shanghai article, and you remember that article said that the United States spends far more time teaching, much more time than Shanghai does, 37% more, and really the importance of teachers working together using data and student work to drive instruction, actually talking about students and what a student needs in terms of one-to-one intervention, those important conversations that have got to take place every single week in common planning time. And common planning time is the key to a professional learning community, and that's the opportunity for teachers to meet together on a regular basis to use data and student work to inform their instruction. My experience at the Melville this week was very exciting. I mean, teachers were so excited about helping one another and talking about students and talking about how they're going to help together as a team move little Johnny forward. And it's empowering them to do that. And there's just nothing more exciting than a team of teachers who is energized and excited about what they're doing. They are in love with their practice. And a professional learning community is the support system for teachers as well, to help keep them energized and excited about what they're doing.
So when you're talking about community, are you talking about a geographic entity, like at Melville School? Is that considered one community? Is that how you're looking at it? Or I'm just wondering if they're teams or how it's organized.
Yes, they are organized in grade level teams, but we also focus on alignment across the district, so that the two elementary schools also work together on occasion in grade level teams, so that we're aligning what's happening in both those schools and making sure we're getting ready, third graders ready to go to fourth grade. So there's opportunities for teachers to work together across the system as well. We had a marvelous school-wide, district-wide professional development day, which was hosted at the middle school, where we focused on assessment and using assessments again, to drive instruction, to drive learning. The focus is on learning. It's on outcomes.
Yeah.
It's not on input. It's not so much about the teaching as it is about the learning. And I think that's a very, very important shift.
I think this has got to be a very interesting time to be in education because of the technology and how we can do so many things here that we couldn't even think of doing before. In fact, I hope I have room at the end of the show to talk to you about a project that we're working on that's kind of came up during our 375th anniversary celebration that connects other schools together as well. You know, Dave's talked about curriculum changes too, both here and when he was on before. And I guess it's kind of confusing for the layperson, more or less, to when we hear about the standardized tests, the learning standards, Common Core standards, things like that. Could you explain what's this all about, and why is Portsmouth, what are we doing in that regard? Are we kind of teaching to a test, or how does this work?
No, we do not teach to a test. However, the state examinations are naturally based on the standards. I like to say if you focus on the standards and focus on the learning, yes, high-stakes testing is certainly something we're probably going to live with, but we don't focus on that. If you teach to very high standards established by the Common Core, the test will take care of itself. Students will do well on that test. There is a new state examination which will be implemented. It's called, David referred to PARC. It is a Common Core that is embraced by many states, not just Rhode Island, and it establishes much, much higher standards in particularly math, science, and English language arts. And we have just completed what was formerly known, what will be PARC. The kneecap is the old statewide examination. We've completed those, and in the future, students will be taking the Common Core assessment, which is known as PARC. And we are fully implementing that. The Assistant Superintendent Schoonover has the lead on that implementation and is working hard with the teachers to get that implemented. It will be online and available to all teachers, including things like what we call exemplars, examples of how to implement the standard in a very, very...
Best practices, things like that. Yeah.
Exactly, and resources to help teachers implement those standards. Yeah. But it's, I think it's long overdue. Yeah, as you may know, Massachusetts is one of the highest in the world. I was involved in implementing the much higher standards in Massachusetts 10 years ago. Yeah. And the high standards make a huge difference. If you do nothing else and simply raise the bar, students will stretch towards that bar. So the standards are so important, and then after that we want to help the teachers with the essential questions. What do you want a student to be able to know and do? And we are also focused on a completely interdisciplinary approach. If you take an interdisciplinary approach to science, technology, engineering, which by the way is not taught in most schools, and engineering is actually where everything comes together. Sure. And the arts and design, computer-assisted design, and of course very rigorous standards in mathematics, and we believe that's a winning combination for students. Yeah.
I want to emphasize that Common Core is a base standard. It's not a rote curriculum. So we can take that standard and with these professional learning communities really now start molding how we develop the programming for our children. And that's what it's a unique programming set for Portsmouth. It's how we interpret the Common Core standards and now the curriculum that we choose, and then how these professional learning communities together determine how we teach that data or that material. And so, I mean, a lot of people are worried that Common Core is this rote book that is put in front of the English learner or the math learner. It's not. It's just a set of standards that we try to strive to reach.
One of the difficulties of any of this stuff is outcomes assessment, you know, and are we doing it right kind of stuff. I presume that's what these statewide tests and things would give you a sense of whether we're doing it right. You know.
Yes. As a matter of fact, the ideal use of a statewide test is as a formative assessment after
Right.
it's over. You basically take that and it gives you a snapshot of where students are, and what David just said is very, very important. It's a base standard. It's not standards should be much higher than the Common Core.
Sure.
For many students. Many students are capable of far more, and I think it's really important that students are also a learning community just like teachers are.
Absolutely.
That a classroom looks like a learning community where students are working together and helping one another. The most underutilized resource in a school is a student who's fully capable of participating in a learning community and helping other students, tutoring other students.
Yeah.
It's just...
I mean, just quickly, the NECAP, the New England Common Assessment Program, is a latent test, meaning that you're tested on the material in November of the past year. And quite frankly, that's probably too long a gap. The new Park assessment is actually now going to be done over a cycle in that present year. So it's not going to be 1 month, it's going to be actually cycled over multiple periods. And it will be probably more, it will actually be a better guide.
Yeah, better assessment probably.
Better assessment as to where our kids are.
Yeah. I think this is great. We need to have a conversation too, because this is fascinating to me. Dave, it's very interesting to me. We're using all these acronyms in education now. I wonder if it's because of retired military people.
Or technology people.
Or STEAM, yeah, or technology people. But you've been on here before on this program talking about the STEAM, essentially, program, I guess, and how is this working out? I think it's a great objective. I just wonder how it's working.
Well, it's critical that it works, and that it works right. And I think that the administration has actually taken the baton. They are working with internal groups right now on a K-12 initiative internally. And we continue to talk to external partners as to the value of how we bridge, let's say, beyond the Portsmouth border. So we are, if I can say, hell-bent on making sure that STEAM is one of our cornerstones, if not the foundation of the education delivery method here in Portsmouth in a very short period of time. So stay tuned. I'll come back and...
Okay, great, because I want you to come back in the program.
And Barbara's embraced this incredibly well, and you know, I think right now we are deep in the planning stages of saying, all right, how do we implement this and implement it well?
Yeah, Barbara, it sounds like you had experience with this elsewhere anyway, so.
Yes, yes. Actually, the school I led in Massachusetts was, in fact, a STEAM school.
Okay, that's great. Well, I look forward to future reports on that, with high expectations about that. You know, I've been reading in the paper...
With no pressure, though.
No pressure. Yeah. Just I'll be watching over your shoulder. We've been reading in the Newport Daily News about the regional high school effort that Middletown seems to put forward, to the surprise of many people in Portsmouth at any rate, and which our school committee is opposed to. Could you tell me why, just out of curiosity?
Well, first, I mean, we support Middletown doing what is best for Middletown, and because it may be best for Middletown doesn't mean it's best for Portsmouth. There was in 2010 and 2011 a like study. The reality was that the then Portsmouth School Committee and most of the residents we heard from at the time did not feel that regionalization was best for Portsmouth. The cost structure of Middletown, the cost structure of Newport, both are different than Portsmouth. Quite frankly, we don't believe it is good for the taxpayer. We don't believe it is good for our students. And let me explain why. While you go into a larger school, you may actually have larger, let's say, AP advanced placement courses available to those students. The problem right now is we have a lot of middle learners actually challenging themselves at AP level. We have, I think we gave 425 exams, give or take one or two, on the AP level. That far surpasses the combined total of both Middletown and Newport. Our middle learners being challenged to take AP level courses. If we combined our high school, the problem is the middle learner is the one that's going to get lost.
Yeah.
Yes, that top quartile is going to be fine because they will continue to excel. And as people would say, it'd be a heck of a football team.
Yeah, right.
But the problem is we're not here for a football team. We're
Oddly
here
enough, that's what a lot of people think we're here for, though, huh? Yeah.
We are here to make sure that we're delivering the best education to the residents. Quite frankly, our population right now of roughly 1,650 has been seen by studies as the absolute ideal efficiency. And actually, in 2011, a school-based publication actually ranked Portsmouth the only community in Rhode Island in one of the most efficient school systems in the country. We are $6,000 per student less than Newport.
Yes.
We're over $1,300 per student less than Middletown. So the reality is that we look at the data, and the data just does not really support the decisions that Middletown is trying to ask us to make.
Now, with this focus on STEAM, okay, is there any way that Middletown and Newport, for example, could send students that really wanted this or something?
I would hope so. I mean, we're still very much open to the idea that we support each other through regional special programming. And as you know, we do so right now with Middletown, Little Compton, and Tiverton on special education.
Okay, let me segue to something else which is also very important. We've had Ray Davis on with you talking about addressing the substance abuse problem, education in our schools. How is that going? And where are we on that strategic rollout of some kind of a plan to attack this?
Well, let me first say that we've had some fantastic progress in the beginning of the year. Through the support of the superintendent, we put out a publication called Family Ties, which really, for the first time, actually was a direct communication relative to alcohol and drug abuse in the schools to all families. And the concept, and it is the superintendent, so I don't want to steal your thunder, but was for families should have a communication.
Yeah. One of the things that was loud and clear when we talked to Ray was what we're talking about here is a culture change, and it's difficult to do that. We're almost out of time here. I could spend another hour talking to you folks, but I want to mention one thing that's come up during this 375th celebration. As you probably know, we had the Lord Mayor of Portsmouth, England, the mayors of Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and Virginia up here during our celebration weekend back at around Labor Day. Out of that, we've come up with something that's going to be called the Portsmouth Atlantic Compact, where we sort of have some sense of connectivity among the four Atlantic Portsmouths. And the first area we're working on that is in education. We have a art teacher, Rose Escobar at the Portsmouth High School, who's working on a project. And it's going to be cool because they're going to be showing the results of these projects that all four Portsmouths are going to be doing at every place. And I just wonder if that's the kind of thing that you all would support.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Matter of fact, we have had many conversations that education and the history, the rich, rich, rich history, right here in our own
Absolutely,
backyard,
we have a lot of history.
Is powerful.
Yeah. Well, listen, I have to thank you very much. We're out of time, as usual, on this program. But thank you very much, and I hope it won't be the last time you come on the show.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you. We'll see you the next time on Portsmouth This Week.